So, welcome back, students. So, this is the 13th session, and today I'm going to talk about the Laplace transform. Okay, so a brief introduction. So, before that, when Fourier presented his theory, the Fourier analysis, right? So, the Laplace was the first one to basically set aside the theory, right? So, he told this theory wouldn't work. So he basically opposed the theory, right? And then a few years later, what Laplace did was, so when Fourier theory was well accepted, so Laplace developed his theory based on the Fourier theory, and there is a relation between Fourier analysis and Laplace analysis. So I am going to talk about it too, right? So basically, this Laplace transform, one of the important applications is in the analysis of systems. Okay, so in control systems, the whole of control systems theory that you are going to study, the analog control systems, is based on the study based on Laplace transform. Okay, and also whenever you have a differential equations, right? So whenever we model systems in our electronics and communication, right? So the when we apply physical laws, okay, so the equation that we are going to get is a differential equation. Okay, so the procedure of solving a differential equation, so in the time domain is, so you have to solve the homogeneous equation first, and then with the forced response, okay, with a given input, and then add those two, right? Use initial conditions, and then find the total solution, right? The specific particular solution, which is called. Okay, so if you use Laplace, so your first step is the same. When you model, you get a differential equation. Take the Laplace transform of a differential equation. Okay, the differential equation will get converted into algebraic equation. So if it's a second order differential equation, you get a quadratic equation. Okay, so then solve it using make some algebraic manipulations and take the inverse Laplace transform, which will give you the solution, right? So the steps involved simplify solving differential equations to a very large extent. Okay, so this is where your Laplace transform is extensively used. One is in your system analysis, and the other one is to solve the constant coefficient linear differential equations. Okay, so maybe second order, third order, whatever the order is. Okay, fine. So I'm going to start with the definition of Laplace transform. Okay, so the Laplace transform of a signal of a function x of t is defined as, which is related by, so if you go back and look at the your, I think it's 9th lecture, right? So this is what you get. Okay, so this I have done it previously, but I didn't mention the name Laplace till now. Okay, so the Laplace transform of x of t is x of s. Okay, this is defined as x of t e power minus st dt. Okay, where s again, just to reiterate, so sigma plus j omega, which is called as a complex frequency. Okay, so now comes the question of existence of Fourier transform, right? So because they are intimately related, so I thought I would teach this now. Okay, so and I'm going to make use of one important law, which is called as the law of triangular inequality. Okay, so the law of triangular inequality, we have studied it. So the third side will be smaller than the sum of the lengths of the other two sides. Okay, the length of the third side is smaller than the lengths of the other two sides, sum of the lengths of the other two sides. So if you take a triangle in a complex plane, okay, so suppose this is one complex number, let's call it z1. Okay, and let's this be z2, and this resultant here, okay, or I'll use another color. Okay. Here the blue one, I'll call it Z3. Okay, so you can see that if you have basic knowledge of complex numbers, so Z1 is complex number plus Z2 is equal to Z3. Okay, so you form a parallelogram, right? So like this, complete it. So Z1 plus Z2 will give you Z3 because Z3 is the diagonal. Okay, so Z1 and Z2 are the sides of the parallelogram. Okay. Now, what does triangular inequality tell you? Triangular inequality tells you that so the length of the third side Z3 is always less than or equal to Z1 plus Z2. Okay, length of Z1 plus length of Z2. Sorry. Okay, so this is the triangular inequality, the geometrical representation, right? So when will these two sides be equal? When Z1 and Z2 are in straight lines. Okay, so Z1 plus Z2 will be equal to the Z3. The triangle will degenerate into a straight line. Okay, so that is when the equality sign comes up. I'm going to make use of this inequality. So I think you will understand it better. So if you have any doubts, you can mail me. Okay, so I'm basically existence means, so if for any given value of omega, if x of j omega is something finite, okay, we say that the Fourier transform exists. Okay, if it is infinite, then we say that it doesn't exist. Okay, so there are three conditions which are called Dirichlet conditions, which it should satisfy. They are the sufficient conditions, not necessary. Okay, even if those conditions are not satisfied, sometimes the Fourier transform may exist. Okay, but if these three conditions are not satisfied, then it doesn't exist. Okay, that is what we mean by the term sufficient conditions. If these three conditions are satisfied, then obviously the Fourier transform has to exist. Okay, if one of them is not satisfied, then the Fourier transform may exist or may not exist. Okay, we can't tell surely. That is the meaning of the term sufficient conditions, and the Dirichlet conditions are the sufficient conditions for existence of Fourier transform. Okay, so they're in the book. So I think it's better you go through that those three laws. Okay, conditions. Now existence. So we know that x of j omega is related to x of t okay, so this is the Fourier transform relation. Okay, and also basically, so if I have two complex numbers z1 equal to r1 e power j theta 1, okay, and z2 equal to r2 e power j theta 2. Okay, so if z is the product of z1 z2, okay, now if I multiply this, so what I am going to get, r e power j theta 1 into r2 e power j theta 2, which is nothing but r1 r2 into e power j theta 1 plus theta 2. Okay, where r represents the length and theta represents the angle. Okay, I hope this you know, right? So the basics of complex numbers, right? So if z I call represented by r e power j theta, right? So the length of the product of these two complex numbers is nothing but r equal to r1 times r2, the length of the products, and the phase angle that is made by this point z, which is the product of z1 and z2, is theta 1 plus theta 2. Okay, where theta is the angle made by this. Okay, so this is theta, this point is r1. Okay, okay, fine. So this is r2, so this will be theta 2. Okay, the angle made with respect to the real axis. Okay, right. So mod of z, right, which is nothing but r, is nothing but mod of z1 times mod of z2. Okay, and I'm going to make use of these two laws, okay, in showing the sufficient conditions for existence of Fourier transform. Okay, now if I take the mod, so x of j omega is nothing but some complex number whose value is dependent on omega, right? So the length of x of j omega is nothing but the length of this. Okay. Now what is integration? As I told you, integration is nothing but you're taking small parts and adding them up, right? And integration from minus infinity to infinity consists of infinite number of terms, okay, which you are taking, you are multiplying x of t by e power minus j omega t dt, right, and going on changing the value of t, right? So you're adding them up and ultimately the total value will give you the integration. Okay, so now it means that you're basically taking the sum here. Okay, integration is nothing but summation of infinite number of infinitesimal small quantities. Okay, infinitesimally small quantities. Okay, now if I use the law of triangular inequality here, okay, so this is the third side and you have the summation. Okay, so this will be equal to this. So if I take the mod of individual terms, I get less than or equal to sign from here to here. Okay, so I'm going to use it. Mod will be now less than or equal to, so I'm taking the individual mods now. Okay, right now so I have two terms z1 z2, okay, and I'm taking the mod of the product, which is nothing but, it is from this law, it is nothing but the product of the individual lengths. Okay, so this will be my length of x of j omega will be less than or equal to mod of x of t into mod of e power minus j omega t. Okay, what is mod of e power minus j omega t? Okay, mod of e power j omega t is nothing but cos of omega t plus sine square omega t square root. Okay, because e power j theta is nothing but cos theta plus j sine theta, and mod of e power j theta is nothing but cos square theta plus sine square theta whole square root. Okay, so cos square plus sine square is equal to 1, so which is nothing but 1. Okay, so now x of j omega length, so for existence this complex number has to have a length less than infinity. Okay, now so from this I know that mod of e power minus j omega t is equal to 1, so this mod of x of t dt. Okay, now what is this telling you? Okay, so you can see that you have a less than or equal to sign. What if the integral is equal to infinity, right? So if the integral on the RHS goes to infinity, right, so there is no equal to sign here, right, it is less than or equal to, which means mod of x of j omega can be equal to infinity, right? So infinity is not a specific number, it's an indeterminate quantity, right? X of j omega may exist, or less than infinity implies it can be something finite also. Okay, so if the integral on the right is infinity, x of j omega may exist or may not exist. Okay, if it is less than infinity, the integral is less than infinity, then mod of x of j omega, which means if mod of x of t is something finite, obviously mod of x of j omega has to be finite, because if this is finite, this is less than or equal to some finite quantity which has to be finite. Okay, so this is what the existence of Fourier transform tells me. Okay, fine, so we'll stop here and we'll see the next concepts in the next session.